Welcome, dark night towers. Before this story begins, listen closely. A terrified black boy is on his knees, begging for his life. The master standing over him doesn't feel pity, he laughs. He mocks the fear in the boy's eyes. But what happens next will challenge everything you think you know about power, cruelty, and fate. This story is built on carefully researched true accounts, cross-checked records, and historical fragments that were never meant to survive. If you're watching this from a quiet room, a late night, or with headphones on, comment below and tell us where you're watching from. And subscribe now, because stories like this take countless hours of digging through real history to uncover the truth others ignore. The plantation was not governed by law or justice. It was ruled by fear. From the moment the sun rose over the endless fields, every enslaved soul knew that survival depended on silence and obedience. The master believed terror was the strongest form of control. Whips hung openly on wooden posts, not hidden away, but displayed as reminders. Punishments were never private. Screams were meant to travel across the fields, so that even those far away would learn their lesson without ever being touched. Children grew up understanding pain before they understood words. A single mistake, working too slowly, speaking without permission, lifting tired eyes, could bring brutal consequences. The master enjoyed these displays of power. He walked the grounds with deliberate steps, knowing that every bowed head fed his authority. Overseers followed his example, enforcing cruelty not just to please him, but to protect themselves. Hope was dangerous on this land. Anyone who showed it was broken first. And yet, beneath this carefully constructed world of terror, something was quietly building, an unseen force waiting for the moment when fear would no longer be enough. The boy's knees pressed into the cold, packed earth as his body shook uncontrollably. He was barely old enough to understand the full meaning of death, yet he could feel it hovering close, heavy and unavoidable. His hands were bound, his wrists raw from the rope, but still he lifted them slightly, as if the smallest gesture might soften the heart of the man standing above him. His voice cracked as he begged, not loudly, not defiantly, but with the fragile desperation of someone who had already seen too much suffering. He promised obedience. He swore loyalty. He pleaded not just for himself, but for his mother, for the life he had never been allowed to live. Each word fell into the dirt between them, unanswered. Around him, the plantation stood frozen. No one dared to look directly at him for long. To show sympathy was to invite the same fate. The boy knew this was his last chance. Tears traced lines through the dust on his face as he whispered his final plea, hoping, against all reason, that mercy might exist in a place built entirely without it. The master did not answer the boy's plea with words. Instead, a sharp laugh cut through the silence, cold, deliberate, and filled with mockery. It wasn't the laughter of amusement, but of dominance. He found pleasure in the boy's fear, in the way his voice trembled and his body shook on the ground. To him, this was not a human begging for life, it was entertainment. He paced slowly in front of the boy, boots grinding into the dirt, repeating the boy's words in a twisted, exaggerated tone. Each imitation drew more laughter, louder this time, meant for everyone watching. The master wanted the crowd to see this moment clearly. Mercy did not live here. Begging only made punishment sweeter. Some of the onlookers lowered their heads in shame. Others stared in frozen horror. The master noticed and smiled wider. He believed this moment sealed his power forever. In his mind, nothing could challenge him now. But as his laughter echoed across the plantation, it masked the truth. Something unseen had already begun to shift, and his mockery would soon become the last sound of his confidence. The master did not allow this moment to remain private. He demanded an audience. Workers were pulled from the fields, their tools dropped where they stood. Women were dragged from cabins, children clutched close to their sides. Everyone was forced into a loose circle around the boy, forming a silent wall of fear. This was not just punishment, it was a lesson. The boy remained on his knees at the center, exposed and powerless. The master wanted every pair of eyes to see what happened to those who begged. Guards stood watch, hands resting near their weapons, daring anyone to look away for too long. No one spoke. Even breathing felt dangerous. For the crowd, the humiliation cut deep. They could not comfort the boy. They could not turn their backs. Many stared at the ground, memorizing the dirt instead of his face, knowing this image would haunt them either way. The master believed this public shame would crush hope completely. But in forcing so many witnesses to share this moment, he unknowingly planted something else, shared dread, shared memory, and the first spark of a truth no whip could erase. As the crowd stood frozen, something strange settled over the plantation. It wasn't silence. There were still distant insects, the creak of wood, the shallow breaths of those watching. But beneath it all was a tightening feeling, like the air itself had grown heavy. People felt it in their chests before they understood it in their minds. Something was wrong. The master sensed it too, though he refused to acknowledge it. His laughter faded quicker than he intended, replaced by an irritated glare. The moment was stretching longer than usual. Punishments were meant to move fast, to end fear quickly. This one lingered. The boy remained kneeling, eyes lowered, strangely still now, as if fear had given way to something quieter, deeper. No one spoke, yet everyone was listening. Even the guards shifted uneasily, hands tightening around their grips. It felt as if the land itself was holding its breath. This tension had no name, no visible cause, but it pressed down on everyone present. And in that unbearable pause, a single truth hovered unspoken. Whatever was about to happen next would not follow the rules this plantation lived by. Without warning, the plantation fell into a silence so complete it felt violent. The insects stopped. The distant wind through the fields died away. Even the restless shuffling of boots and chains ceased, as if every sound had been stolen at once. It was the kind of quiet that made ears ring and hearts race. The master froze mid-step. His mouth opened as if to speak, but no words came out. The crowd sensed it instantly. This was not fear-induced stillness. This was something else. Children clutched tighter to their mothers. A guard swallowed hard, glancing around as though expecting an order that never arrived. At the center of it all, the boy lifted his head for the first time. His tears had stopped, his breathing slowed. In that unnatural quiet, his presence felt different, calmer, heavier, almost anchored. No one understood why, but everyone felt it. The rules had changed. The plantation, once loud with cruelty and command, stood mute, witness to a silence that did not ask permission and did not belong to any man. It began with confusion. The master tried to regain control, his hand lifted, his mouth forming a command, but his voice failed him. Not a shout, not even a whisper. His confidence faltered for the first time, and the crowd noticed. Eyes that had been trained to look down slowly lifted, drawn by instinct rather than courage. A guard stepped forward, then stopped, as if an invisible line blocked his path. His face drained of color. Another took a nervous step back. The air felt thicker now, pressing against skin, making movement feel unnatural. What should have been a simple act of punishment was slipping beyond anyone's control. Then someone gasped, not at the boy, but at the master. His expression had changed. The smirk was gone, replaced by something raw and unfamiliar doubt. In that moment, fear shifted direction. It no longer belonged to the boy on his knees. It had found a new home, and everyone watching understood, without a single word being spoken. This was the first crack in a power that had never been questioned before. The master felt it before he showed it. The ease in his posture vanished, his shoulders stiffening, as if bracing for a blow that never came. He glanced around, searching for reassurance, from the guards, from the crowd, from the land itself, but found none. The authority he had worn so comfortably moments ago no longer fit him. His breathing changed. Shorter, sharper. He wiped his palms against his coat, an unconscious gesture that did not go unnoticed. The crowd saw it, and a dangerous realization spread quietly among them. The master was afraid. Not angry, not annoyed, afraid. The boy remained still, yet somehow seemed larger now, more present than anyone else in the clearing. The balance had shifted. The master took a step back, then caught himself, furious at his own weakness. But it was too late. Arrogance had cracked, and fear had rushed in to fill the space. For the first time on this plantation, power trembled, and everyone felt the change. Time seemed to distort in that moment. Seconds stretched into minutes, yet nothing moved. The boy on the ground, the master above him, even the crowd frozen around them, everything felt suspended, as if reality itself had paused to witness what was unfolding. There was no wind, no rustle of leaves, no animal sound, only the weight of the impossible pressing down on everyone's chest. People tried to rationalize it. Some thought the master was playing a new kind of cruel trick. Others whispered that the boy had done something, anything, to summon this strange stillness. Yet no one could say why. Their senses screamed that something extraordinary was happening, but reason offered no answers. Even the master, normally so commanding, could not move. His voice, his hands, his body, all betrayed him. Panic rose quietly, a subtle tremor beneath the surface. The boy looked up, calm and alert, and the silence seemed to bend around him, almost protective. Every person present felt it. This was no ordinary event. Something beyond understanding had entered the plantation, rewriting the rules, suspending fear and power alike. It was a moment that could not be explained, only witnessed, and none would ever forget it. For the first time, the master realized he was no longer in control. Every step he tried to take felt heavier than the last. His voice, which had once commanded obedience with ease, faltered, cracking into unnatural tones that made even the guards glance at one another in unease. The arrogance that had defined him, The certainty that his power was absolute crumbled in a heartbeat. He raised his hand to strike, to reassert dominance, but it shook visibly. His eyes darted across the frozen faces around him, searching desperately for any sign that the illusion of control still held, but found only silence, tension, and wide-eyed fear. The laughter he had earlier wielded like a weapon now seemed hollow, even to him. Each moment stretched endlessly. The weight of expectation, of authority, of a lifetime built on fear, pressed down and crushed his composure. Sweat beaded along his brow. His posture, once upright and unyielding, slumped slightly, betraying him. The people around him felt it, power shifting, the invisible crown slipping. In that collapse, the plantation's hierarchy fractured. The boy on the ground was no longer simply a victim. He had become the focal point of a reversal that no whip, no threat, and no cruelty could undo. Confidence had fallen, and with it, the world as the master knew it began to tilt. As the master's confidence crumbled, a subtle change rippled through the crowd. At first, it was nearly imperceptible, soft, almost inaudible murmurs passing from one person to the next. A worker shifted in the dirt, a woman gasped quietly, and another whispered a name under her breath. The hush of the plantation gave these whispers power, making them feel louder than they were. Fear mingled with curiosity. The onlookers began to share observations, theories, and speculations in hurried, hesitant tones. Some suggested the boy had somehow defied fate. Others dared to wonder if punishment itself had been suspended by forces unseen. Every whisper carried a mix of awe and terror, spreading like wildfire through those who had been too afraid to speak moments before. The boy remained at the center, calm yet intensely aware, as if he could feel the collective heartbeat of those around him. The master's faltering posture amplified the murmurs, each whisper emboldened by the sight of the once dominant man reduced to uncertainty. By now, the plantation was alive in a new way. It was no longer merely a place of oppression. It had become a witness to something extraordinary. The whispers stitched together, a shared understanding among the people. Something impossible was happening, and they were all participants in the event, powerless to intervene, yet unable to look away. In an instant, the boy's life, once teetering on the edge of despair, shifted in a way no one could have predicted. The moment that had seemed to promise only suffering now turned into something almost surreal. The master, whose laughter had once ruled the scene, stumbled backward, his authority evaporating, leaving a vacuum of power that the boy quietly, invisibly stepped into. The crowd watched, breathless, as the boy's posture changed subtly. He lifted his chin, and for the first time, he was no longer the pleading figure in the dirt. There was an unmistakable weight to his presence now, an aura that demanded recognition even from those who had trained themselves not to see him. The shift was not violent. There was no overt strike, no sudden escape, yet everyone sensed it. An invisible line had been crossed. The boy, once powerless, was no longer defined by the master's cruelty. His fate, once sealed by oppression and fear, was abruptly rewriting itself before the eyes of the entire plantation. Even the master seemed aware, and his reaction betrayed it. He stumbled, sputtered, and attempted to reclaim dominance, but the energy had changed. The boy's life, once dangling by a thread, now pulsed with an impossible resilience. It was a reversal that no one could explain, a moment that would haunt every witness long after silence returned. The air itself seemed to shudder as the balance of power shifted. The master, once the unquestioned authority on the plantation, now appeared fragile, almost human in his panic. Every gesture he made to regain control failed, each attempt crumbling under the weight of something he could neither see nor understand. Fear, once his weapon, had returned to him in full force. Meanwhile, the boy, kneeling moments ago, trembling in terror, stood differently now. There was no arrogance in him, no threat, yet a quiet command radiated from his presence. Those watching felt it instinctively. The one who had been victimized now held a position of undeniable strength. It was as if the roles had been rewritten in an instant, reversing the natural order that the plantation had enforced for decades. Whispers erupted among the crowd. Some felt relief, others terror. The lines of loyalty blurred as the master's control weakened. Guards faltered, unsure whose command to follow. Even the land itself seemed to respond, a subtle shift in the wind carrying an unspoken acknowledgement of the change. The reversal was complete and terrifying. The boy's survival was no longer a question of mercy. It was now a testament to a power that defied expectation. And the master, who had once stood above all, was left exposed, his dominance shattered, his authority meaningless, and his fear laid bare for everyone to see. Despite the magnitude of what happened that day, history as written would never acknowledge it. Official plantation records, overseer logs, and later historical accounts made no mention of the boy's defiance or the master's sudden collapse. To the outside world, the day passed like any other. Fields worked, crops harvested, punishments administered, but the truth remained hidden in whispers and memories of those who witnessed it firsthand. It was as if the event existed in a separate plane of reality. Guards who had seen the impossible unfolded dared not speak openly, fearing reprisals. Workers who had whispered about it in hushed tones knew their voices could bring danger if overheard. The boy himself vanished into obscurity, a living testament to something extraordinary, yet officially invisible. Decades later, fragments of the story survived only in oral accounts, half-forgotten letters, and secret diaries. Historians would struggle to piece together the truth, dismissing it as rumor or exaggeration. But those who'd been there, the trembling witnesses, the shaken master, the boy himself, knew the undeniable reality. Something impossible had occurred, a reversal of fate that no ledger, no law, no official record could capture or contain. In erasing it from the written record, history may have silenced the event, but it could never erase its imprint on those who lived it. Long after the sun had set over the plantation, long after the fields were empty and the echoes of fear had faded, the story of that day lingered like a shadow. It haunted those who witnessed it, a silent reminder that power built on cruelty is never absolute, and that fate can overturn the most rigid hierarchies in a single, unexplainable moment. The boy, once powerless, had become a symbol, though unrecorded in official accounts, of resilience, courage, and the strange, unstoppable force of justice. For the master, the humiliation, the fear, and the sudden collapse of authority remained etched in memory, a personal terror that no amount of denial could erase. Every step he took afterward carried the invisible weight of that day. For those who survived on the plantation, the event became a whispered lesson. Cruelty can be undone, dominance is fragile, and history, no matter how carefully written to protect the powerful, cannot entirely bury the truth. In hushed conversations, in trembling recollections, in the eyes of children who would carry the story forward, the haunting truth persisted. Even centuries later, the lesson remains: oppression is never invincible, and sometimes the smallest and most powerless can ignite a force that leaves an unshakable mark on the world and on history itself.